Hi guys, this is Aslam Khan here, back again to teach you today ratios. This is for your Cambridge exams 7707. This might be most probably tested on question number 4 and this will be tested for 20 marks. So I'm going to help you today how to do ratios, but before we move on to this part, I'm going to say you this is an important area. Students find it difficult to score. Today I'm going to teach you how to comment, how to write an answer, how to analyze, how to evaluate. All these stuff will be discussed much deeper through this video. Let's see now. Before we move on to this video, I just want to make it clarified. On last video, I have put the difference between 7707 and 7110. The content is going to be the same in though when it comes to 7707 or 7110 paper. The method of doing these papers are going to be the same, but the marks the examiner has allocated is going to be different. So I hope I have given you the answer for the question which you have asked on the previous video. So let's look on to the ratios topic now deeper. You might see here there are 3 ratios in your exams in Cambridge O level. First of all, you need to know the first ratio I'm going to speak today. It's profitability. And the second ratio today I will be speaking with you is liquidity. And third one, efficiency. Efficiency ratios. So let me explain these 3 terms before we move on to the next part. Profitability ratio speaks about how much profit a business has earned in terms of revenue, how much the business has made, and that is represented through a percentage term under profitability ratio. Under liquidity, we will be seeing how much money a business have in order to run their business day to day. It's known as liquidity. It's about understanding how much money the business has kept in their hand to run the business smoothly. And the third ratio is efficiency. Efficiency ratio speaks about how much you are using the resources properly, and are you taking the maximum usage of your resources, or are you paying the supplier on time, or are you receiving the sales on time, how fast do your sales move on, how fast do you collect your cash, how fast do you sell your inventories. This will be discussed under efficiency ratios. So efficiency ratio is speaking about how much you are utilizing your assets and how much you are focusing on your liabilities. So let's look on these 3 profitability ratios now. There are 3 profitability ratios which is tested in your exams. Number 1, gross profit ratio. Simple calculation of doing gross profit ratio. Gross profit ratio can be divided gross profit divided by sales. Sales also has another term. We say it as revenue into 100. Net profit ratio is the second ratio I'm going to speak about. Net profit ratio. There's also another formula, net profit divided by sales into revenue into 100. And third one is return on capital employed. Maybe my handwriting is a bit ugly, but just focus on the content. So return on capital employed can be calculated in this way. You will take profit, or you can say net profit, divide by, you can take capital employed. How do we calculate capital employed? Easy. You take all your non-current liabilities, right, and you add with shareholders fund. Shareholders fund. So now what is shareholders fund? According to your understanding, according to your basic knowledge, you need to know these 3 few ratios. But for capital employed, to find out there's another way. You need to add your non-current liabilities with shareholders fund. Shareholders fund is where the amount of money invested by the owners of the business. It can be ordinary shares or retained earnings together. We can consider shareholders fund. This is not your AS level or A level exam. So for this, having this much knowledge is more than enough to score an A star in exams. So now when I speak about profitability ratio, you might see there's a ratio called gross profit ratio. The gross profit ratio is speaking about how much gross profit you have earned in terms of revenue. We show it in percentage, 100%. So you multiply into 100. The same way, when you are earning net profit, net profit divided by sales into 100. So you need to show how much net profit you have earned in terms of revenue. In percentage you need to show it. And return on capital employed is showing the owners on the net profit I have earned is this much on the money you have invested, and the money you have obtained to the business I have earned this much. So representing the amount of money the business has gained in percentage terms is what we say return on capital employed. Now your examiner is very tricky when it comes to these papers. You need to know how to write your ratios in a proper manner. So I'm going to teach you the basic tips on scoring in profitability areas. When you're writing, they might ask you in exams, they might ask you to compare your last year with this current year, and they will say what has happened to gross profit ratio. Remember a few things when you're doing gross profit ratio. The things which is affecting gross profit, that's the first thing you need to know when you're doing gross profit ratio. Now if they ask the actual difference, now gross profit ratio last year was maybe 10%. This year it has increased for 15%. They might ask in your exam what might be the reason the gross profit has increased. So you need to understand before gross profit you have two things to calculate. One is sales, other one is cost of sales. So these are two determinants which is affecting the gross profit. So if sales increase or if your selling price of the product increase, your sales increase, so your gross profit might increase. If your cost of sales decrease, then of course your gross profit might increase. So the way of practically understanding when they are asking one thing and why it might increase and why it might not increase, first of all see above determinants of the answer. So let's move on to the next part. You might see here net profit ratio. In net profit ratio they have net profit divided by sales. When I speak about net profit divided by sales, you need to understand the examiner is again tricky. He might be asking what is the actual difference between the last year and this year. Why do you think the net profit has decreased? You can give you certain answers. If you see your expenses has increased on the case study, you can say that maybe the business has advertised their products, so that might be the reason the expenses has decreased. The expenses has increased, because of that the net profit has decreased. Or if your net profit has increased, you can speak about a lot of terms, because I said for gross profit the affecting part for gross profit was cost of sales and sale. For net profit it can be sales, it can be cost of sales, it can be expenses, it can be other income. So these four factors you can speak about when it comes to net profit. So when you are speaking about why net profit has increased, you need to say that the selling price would have increased, maybe that's the reason net profit has increased. Why net profit has decreased, maybe the expenses has increased, so the net profit decreased. So understanding where it might affect in these two ratios is very important when you score on profitability areas. And the third is return on capital employed. It's the amount of investment you give towards your owners. When you speak about the amount of investment you have given back from in percentage of net profit, it's what we say return on capital employed. In this area they don't ask much what happens most probably, but they might ask why your return on capital employed has dropped down. At that point you should be able to say again, if your net profit has decreased, you might see your return on capital employed also will decrease. Or if your capital employed has increased, still your net profit might decrease. So you need to understand that if you really wanted to increase your return on capital employed, your capital employed should decrease and your net profit should increase. So this is the way you can increase your return on capital employed. So I hope you understood these three basic things of profitability ratios. Let's now look on to the liquidity ratios quick. According to liquidity ratio, there are two ratios you need to know for your exams. Number one, I can start with current ratio. Your examiner loves this ratio, I don't know why. When it comes to the second ratio, we say it as acid test ratio, or we can also say it as quick ratio. So this is what I'm gonna explain you now. But before we move on to that, let's write the formulas for this. Current ratio can be written as current asset divided by current liabilities, right? So acid test ratio can be written in this way: current asset deduct inventory and divide by current liability. Okay, so for all the students who doesn't know what is current asset and current liability, let me explain you. No worries. Current asset means it's a way of you can understand that your money will come within 1 year of time. Your money will inflow into the business because of your past transaction. Current liability, due to a past transaction, your money will outflow from your business. That's what we say current asset and current liability. So basic thing of current asset you need to know. There are 4 things which can be given on a on a paper. Most probably inventory will be given on your paper. That's a current asset. Trade receivable is a current asset. Cash is a current asset. Bank is a current asset. Sometimes they might give you prepayment, so it's also current asset. So these 5 things you remember, it's current asset. In current liabilities, you might be given most of the time it is bank overdraft, trade receivable, trade payables, bank overdraft, and accrued liability. So accrued payables or accruals, all this will come under current liability. So remember, bank overdraft, trade payables, or accruals. So these 3 can make current liabilities. So now when it comes to current ratio, you need to understand that your business need to understand, can we meet the basic liabilities of the business for that particular year? If we can meet the basic liabilities of the business for the particular year through a benchmark, we say that's current ratio. For example, you might have certain current asset, as I said, you divide by current liabilities. So you have something called under liquidity ratio. I'm going to teach you something called benchmark. Okay, examiner loves this term, so you need to understand what is benchmark. So if your current asset, okay, when you divide this by current asset, there will be current liabilities. You need to write in this way. Now, example, if I say current asset is 200,000 and current liabilities is 100,000, my answer should be 2:1. So this is how you write in exams. So when it comes to liquidity, you need to represent in this way. If your benchmark is 2, the business is doing good. Okay, the business is performing better or at best. But I'm going to say again, there's another benchmark you need to know, 1. Okay, if the benchmark is 1, the business is managing properly. So I can give you a term, properly. Properly means it's okay, the business is somewhat managing. But if your answer, if your ratio come, maybe if I say your ratio is 0 to 1, maybe if you got an answer of 0.9 or 0.8, if your answer is 0.8:1, your business is managing the cash flow very poorly, because they can't even pay the current liabilities. That's what it means. So you need to be at least have some sort of enough amount to survive, like to pay the current liabilities day to day and run the business. That's what liquidity speaks about. So when they ask about the benchmark, if the business, the examiner is very tricky again. As I said, in current ratio, they might say the business has a ratio of 0.8. Do you feel that it is satisfactory? Or they might say, from the above calculations you have calculated, do you feel that your the business is doing satisfactory? So you need to say that if the business is on 2, the business is performing at the best. So they are managing their cash flows better. Maybe their sales are high, maybe their expenses are low. You can speak on that area. If the business is at 1, then you can say that the business is somewhat managing, but they need to improve. And the business is at less than 1, the business should improve a lot, because they can't even pay their liabilities. So it's not good for a business to run like that. Now when I speak about asset test ratio, you need to understand that this is a basic term for asset test ratio. There's another term we say as quick ratio. Quick ratio is taking current asset minus inventory divided by current liability. So current asset is as I said, there are 5 things in current asset. In that you remove the inventory part. Now why do you want to remove the inventory part? Because cash you have in your hand, bank is the amount you have in the bank, and trade receivable is the amount of goods you have sold to the credit customer. So now this trade receivable, cash and bank, it's all money, you can make it soon. But inventory is not the money you have in your hand, it's just the goods you have in your hand. So the goods what you have in your hand, you can't make it money soon as possible. So you need to understand that a quick ratio speaks about how fast you have money to pay your liabilities. Not like you might say that I have a lot of inventories in my business, but it doesn't mean that you can pay the money soon as possible when a credit supplier walks into your business. So you need to be able to pay the basic amount to the credit supplier with the amount what you have. So that's the reason we are finding current asset minus inventory we remove, which we can't sell now, and make it fast as cash, and we divide it by current liability. So when it comes to quick ratio, when I say the benchmark, if the benchmark is, example, if your benchmark is 100,000 here, and if you get 100,000, the business is 1:1. They are operating in 1:1. Remember, the left side is representing the current asset and the right side is representing the current liabilities. So when I say 1:1, the business is satisfactory. It's at its best. Satisfactory. Okay, they are at its best. But when it comes to current ratio, it's not like that, it's not good, it's somewhat okay, but they are at best, I can say it's best performance. If they are at 1 to 0 to 1, again poor management. So this is what you need to write in your exam. So I have given you an understanding how to score and how to write in your exams. When it comes to liquidity, the examiner can ask in your benchmarks. So be careful on your benchmarks. In your next video, I'm going to teach you how to write a exam paper. But this is how I have already taught you the techniques. If you watch this video, this is more than enough for you to score on your exam. So let's move on to the next part, efficiency ratios. Okay, so I'm going to erase this. Let me not take your time. Your time is much valuable, so I don't want to waste your time, guys. So efficiency ratios, as I know in your exams, these three can be listed. I start with the first one, trade receivables turnover. Then I have trade payables turnover. Then I have the third one, inventory turnover. So these are three ratios they can ask from trade receivables, trade payables, and inventory. So when it comes to trade receivables turnover, you need to understand how fast you can make good sales is what it is going to represent. So if they ask in your exams what is trade receivables turnover, you should be able to say that how quick you can make the sale and how quick you can convert your sale into cash. That's what we say, trade receivables turnover. So now when I move on to trade receivables turnover, you know this formula. It's credit sales divided by average trade receivables. Okay, so easy. Now you might think, okay, do I need to put like on profitability we multiplied it into 100, on liquidity we found benchmarks. Do I need to do the same thing for efficiency? No guys, you don't do that. Don't do that blunder. What you need to do, you need to find the number of times. How many times it takes for you to sell the product. Average inventory, average trade receivables can be found. Opening trade receivables. Okay. I'm sorry if I'm so fast. Plus closing trade receivables. So you take this and you divide by 2. So you get your average trade receivables. That's how you find your average trade receivables. Your examiner is very tricky. Again, they might never say what is credit sales. So you need to find out your credit sales. They might say sale of the revenue of the business is 100,000. 40% of the business is indicating the credit sale. Or credit customers are indicated by 40% of the revenue. So if 100,000 is the revenue, 40 into 100,000 into percentage of 40, we will get 40,000. So that's what we say credit sales. You should be able to find it out. Sometimes they may not give you sales, so you need to go back from the gross profit margin and should be finding out. That you will learn through the chapter incomplete records, which I will be posting in new soon videos. But for now, have an understanding that credit sales divided by average trade receivables is the number of times which you are going to find. So if you got credit sales, for example, 100,000 and you got average trade receivables opening 10,000 and closing 10,000, so you get 10,000 is 20,000 divided by 2 is giving you 10,000. So 100,000 divided by 10,000 will give you 10 times. So you should be able to write in times. If you don't write in times, if you put 10:1 or 10 into 100 is giving you 1000%, it's wrong. So don't write that, guys. Don't make this blunder. But in trade receivables turnover, when I speak about trade receivables, that's another thing. Trade receivables days, number of days. Okay, so examiner is easy. So if you know the formula, doing the trade receivable days is also easy. How to do? You bring the average trade receivables up. Okay, average trade receivables will come up, and what will come down? Credit sales will come down, and you need to multiply into 365. So most of the time, if you get an answer, how much? Maybe I'm just giving you your concern. Now 10,000 is here. Okay, divide by 100,000. So I get 0.1. So I will multiply it into 365. So I get 36.5 days. If you get like this, guys, you can also do something 37 days in your exams. Examiner says no problem, I'll give you marks. So he's concerned that he can give you marks even if you round off if the days are just nearby. So that's what you need to know when it comes to trade receivables turnover. The same way of formula is going to be used in trade payables turnover and inventory turnover. So let me teach you that also soon without wasting your minute, because I know that this minute is going to cost you a lot because you are watching now, because you are getting prepared for your exams. So trade payables turnover is also speaking about, like I said, you need to know the formula. Trade payables turnover has cost of sales. You can take, okay, you can take cost of sales if they don't give, or there's another way you can take credit purchases. So this is how you find. Most of the time, if they don't give credit purchase, you can be able to find cost of sales too. So you can divide it by average trade payables. As I said, for average trade receivables, you need to take opening trade receivables plus closing in trade receivables. You should do the same thing. For average trade payables, opening trade payables plus closing trade payables. Okay, creepy handwriting, right? So now this opening trade payables plus closing trade payables divided by 2 is indicating the actual amount of average trade payables. You take your credit purchases divided by average trade payables. If the examiner doesn't give anything, or if they give cost of sales, take cost of sales directly, because if they didn't speak about, remember to take cost of sales. If they never speak about opening stock and closing stock, then of course it should be cost of sales, because credit purchase is represented by cost of sales. Or they might say the whole cost of sales is representing the credit purchase. So you should not get upset if they don't give anything on purchases. So don't get upset. They might say the whole cost of sales is representing credit purchase. So you need to understand some sort of way they will inform on paper, so you need to be able to find that. So if you get cost of sales and you divide by average trade payables, you can again get another number of times here, as I did for the previous average trade receivables. So you need to write number of times answer. So as I said on the last question, if you get, for example, credit purchase 200,000 and your opening trade payables is 5,000 and closing payables is 5,000, so which is 10,000, you get 20 times. Write in times, okay, when it comes to trade payables turnover, trade receivables turnover, or inventory turnover. Why do you do trade payables turnover? Easy. How much fast you are paying the credit supplier. To know how much time it takes to pay the credit supplier, we see number of days, and how many times you pay the credit supplier. How many days you pay the credit supplier, we see through number of days. How many times you pay the credit supplier is seen through this formula. So I hope you got that. Then there's something you need to know. Trade payable turnover days, or you can say days, number of days. I can write days. Okay, so trade payable days, how do you get that? As I said, your average trade payables will come up, and also you will have something down. Average trade payables up and something down. What do we see? Cost of sales or credit purchase. So again, into 365, if you can multiply, you can get the number of days, and which will represent how many days it will take to make the payment. Last but not least, for your exams, this is the last formula I'm going to teach you. This is what we say, inventory turnover. So why do you find inventory turnover? You need to understand how much time it takes to make the how much time it takes to sell the inventory is representing by inventory turnover. So if I say number of days, it is speaking about inventory turnover days. If I say how many times it has been sold for the particular year, it is representing inventory turnover only. So let's see how do you calculate inventory turnover. Again, the same way, you take cost of sales directly, okay, cost of sales, and you divide by average inventory. How do you take average inventory? Easy. Opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. So if you take cost of sales, divide by average inventory, opening stock plus closing stock, divide by 2 will give the number of times. Maybe if your cost of sales is 500,000 and your opening stock is 25,000 and your closing stock is 25,000. I'm sorry. So 25,000 plus 25,000 is 50,000. 50,000 divided by 2 will give you 25,000. So you need to divide this by 2 and only you need to be finding out. I think on the last two turnover ratios I didn't divide it by 2. So you need to remember that when you are doing the sum. If I had taken this 2 as a reason, I take my opening, I take my closing, I add it, I divide it by 2, find out my average inventory and divide the actual cost of sales. Maybe that's the thing you need to notice. Okay, so if you have not noticed on the last previous thing, just get it done. Maybe I was a bit fast, so that's why I missed it. So anyway, so moving on to this part, you need to understand that if you have average inventory, cost of sales divided by average inventory will give you the basic way of inventory turnover. So when it comes to inventory turnover days, easy to find inventory turnover days. Take your cost of sales down, take your average inventory up, multiply into 365 to represent how many days it takes to make the payment. I think how many days it takes to sell the inventory towards the customer. I think in trade receivables turnover and trade payables turnover, maybe I can't remember, so I didn't divide it or not. But remember to use this two. If you have opening inventory and closing inventory, add it and divide it by 2, get the answer, then divide the up value. So I hope you understood this whole ratios properly. If you have not understood anything, you can just comment on the comment section. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel to learn with me all way through for your exams. See you guys in the next video with new tactics and techniques. Bye. I made a mistake.